Wonderful. So let's go ahead and get started. And it is a great pleasure of mine to introduce you to playwright Amy Berryman. Now, I've known Amy since she was a very young girl because I've known her father, Jeff Berryman, for a very long time. Many of you might remember Jeff because he's starred in so many Taproot productions over the years, including Man of La Mancha and shows like that. You've seen him quite a bit. But Amy was a young actress here in Seattle, and she was in our production of Big River and just did a stunning job as the female lead in that show. And then she moved away to New York City to continue her acting career. And I've just been delighted by the fact that she has switched from acting to playwriting. I think she still acts as well, and we'll talk to her more about that, but that she's really turned her focus to playwriting. And I've had the good fortune, I think I've read her entire canon of work, and her playwriting is phenomenal. Um, and for those of you who've had a chance to see it, we have put on a series of plays that she's written, uh, uh, a project that we commissioned her to do called Change Your Life. So it was a series of Zoom plays that she did for us during this COVID outbreak. So, Amy, welcome. We're so excited that you're here, that you're joining us. And now you get to see her pretty face. There she is.
Hello.
Hello. Well, Amy, I was just talking to them a little bit about the fact that I knew you first as an actress. So talk
Yes.
to us a little bit about that. How do you go from acting to playwriting? How did that happen for you?
Yeah, I think I've always been a writer as well as an actor, just as far as like journaling and creative writer, but I was so focused on acting for so long and very obsessed with it. And at the same time, after graduating college, moving to New York, it's very difficult. It's a very difficult path that I'm someone who really likes to have control, some kind of control, as much as you can over your creative life, and someone who likes to be able to take action and like
Hmm.
achieve goals. And as an actor, it's really hard because you have to have someone give you permission to
Oh,
get to do
yeah.
your work and give you permission to audition for something and then say yes to you. And it just felt like I was banging against a lot of doors that weren't opening for a very long time. And then I did get a great role in a play in the Humana Festival, which is an amazing festival of all new plays. So I kind of got introduced to the world of like creating new plays,
Mhm.
the world of playwrights. There were many playwrights at this festival, and afterwards, sorry, I'm in Harlem, so if you like, it's very loud. I live at the front of my building, so if you hear anything, sorry about that. But anyway, um, I I um I just became very interested in the world of like new plays. I'd been, trained at a conservatory and a lot of like more classical sort of work. And I put myself in a writing class, playwriting class, and I just haven't really turned back.
Mm.
I think I've just really loved that I can kind of control how much I write and when I write, and that there's like a solitary element to it, but there's also a communal element to it where you get to like write the thing and then you get to share it with people that you care about and love and respect, and people who can give you great feedback on it, and it becomes this really great thing that you go from a feeling of like, oh, I'm very alone in this artistic work, to I'm not alone in it. And it creates energy and it creates opportunity. So
And you've had a lot of positive response that I know.
that's the other thing, is that it was definitely like, it felt like doors just kind of kept opening. Whereas with acting, even though every once in a while I get a really good job,
Mhm.
but it definitely just felt like it was like knocking hard on a lot of doors and then not opening. Whereas with writing, it was constantly like, and a door opens, and another door opens, and a bigger door opens. And so I've just sort of followed that path, and it's been a lot healthier and
Mhm.
happier for me, honestly.
I
So
I had this interesting experience because I was an actor
great.
first as well, and I always thought, oh, I'm an actor who directs, and then
Mm,
I was able to be a part of this. The Lincoln Center puts on a directing lab, and I went to that directing lab, and I was surrounded by 50 other people who called themselves directors, and
hmm.
I remember thinking, oh my gosh, these are my people. They
Yeah.
talk like me, they think like me, and then that's where I went, I'm a director who acts. Do you ever
Yes.
feel like that? Do you feel like that yet?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I I like acting very much.
Mhm.
Um, but I think the pursuit of it is so difficult and it really depresses me. Like just the actual pursuit of the thing. Whereas the pursuit of writing, the like sending my play to people, even if they don't like it, but we ultimately have this great discussion about it, or I send it out and I get negative feedback and then there's the one person who gets it. So
Mm,
I totally agree that I feel that I've found this thing that feels like it's come because it's built upon my work as an actor. Like I think that as an actor am able to kind of infuse something like I think that I'm strong in dialogue and I think that that
mm,
has something to do with being an actor, knowing
mhm.
what feels authentic and knowing how to be empathetic with your characters and kind of move in between those voices.
Oh, wow, yeah. I was gonna
So
ask
yeah.
you about your process a little bit and just how do the ideas come to you? And does it start with an idea or a vision, or does it start with a character and a character voice? Since you
Hmm.
are an actor, what's your process? Or is it different for each project?
I definitely feel like it can be different for each project. There's sometimes that I'm like, I don't know, how do I write a play? I don't know how I did that, how I did it before. Like, I can't remember how to do it this upcoming time. So often it's with a question or with a memory or something that feels very personal. Like there's some sort of seed of something very personal, I think.
Mhm.
And but often it'll come from a question or circumstance. I don't know if it's always necessarily a character's voice, but it might be like someone that works in a restaurant or someone that's a young girl growing up in 2002 or an astronaut, or there's something that sparks my interest. And sometimes it has to do with something political, but it often is something that is coming from either like a personal question that I'm grappling with or have grappled with, um, or a memory. Yeah, it
Mhm.
always comes from something very personal.
Well, maybe we should talk to them a little bit about the project that we just worked on together,
Yeah,
which was such delight for me. It was so fun
me too.
to work on, and I just to be really clear, I wasn't supposed to be working on it at all,
Right.
what happened is we realized when you do a Zoom play, the way you have to do it technically, um,
It's
one
huge.
one person has to speak, then you have to pause before the next person speaks. Otherwise, the overlapping is not good technically.
Yeah,
And so then we found that, and then we had to have all four of you in the shot, but that wasn't always telling the story correctly.
right.
So I ended up directing the
The
what was
edit.
shot. Yeah, the
Yeah.
edit. But and as a result, I just fell in love with this story and these characters. So let's talk a little bit about Change Your Life and how that commission came about and what your
Yeah.
thoughts were about that.
I mean, it was so, I mean, what a dismal time for the theater. Let's just say that. What a crazy year. And, I think for all of us, so much disappointment and so many things falling through. And so, at that time when you presented the idea, I was so excited because I just was thrilled to have something to work on, which was amazing. But also, I actually am very good at assignments. I don't even know if you know this about me, actually, but
No.
I'm very good at like someone assigning me a thing with the specific ideas and like
Mhm.
not crazy ideas like or not crazy specific but a general idea of what someone
Right.
wants, and I think I'm good within parameters like that instead of just
Mhm.
like write whatever you want. It's like the spaciousness of that kind of freaks me out. And it may be because when I first started writing, it was in a or playwriting, it was in a group that was like, and every month you get a certain amount of um, conditions or a theme, and you get a certain group of actors, and so like I would write within that, and that has always been really fun. I've also written a full-length play kind of based on that idea, separate from this Change Your Life. So I was super excited to get a specific group of actors. I knew that like we wanted to acknowledge Zoom in some way, and that like I don't know if I just grappled onto this idea of that it should be during this moment or if that's what you wanted. I can't really remember, but I did. And this was in April. So I kept thinking about how this time makes you really want to like, made me at least want to reconsider, what am I doing with my life? What are we doing with our
Mhm.
lives? And
Yeah,
is what we're doing the right thing? Or is this a moment
right.
to, why not just take the leap and do something different if you want to? So that was kind of the
Mhm.
theme that I went with. And then in June, um, things changed, and the Black Lives Matter movement,
Mhm.
it intensified. There was a lot of grief, there was a lot of upheaval, and we had four amazing actors in our piece, two Black women, two white women, and it just became like, well, we need to address this. And I was encouraged by the actors to address it. And so then the piece changed, and it allowed me to kind of create a sort of a structure for it that was like a month, each episode being a month of this year. Then I had the idea of the final episode being set a year in the future.
Mhm.
Um, and that kind of helped give it some context, and it
Mhm.
feels like, the idea looking back on it feels like sort of literal, but it also feels, I think, like you've even said, like a time capsule of some sort of the
Absolutely.
conflict that we're going through right now. And I think that I was so lucky to have the actors that I had, because they all were so generous in contributing both
Mhm.
their ideas and their talent, and being so open to being honest with me. Um,
Well, two
and
things I wanted to
yeah,
share. One
yeah.
is that that fifth episode that takes place a year from now, that's
Mm-hmm.
going to drop this Friday. So
Right, I'm so excited.
everybody, for those of you who've seen the first four, the fifth one drops on Friday. And I should also say that because of how successful the series has been and how excited people have been to watch it, we've decided to put out a one more episode, which is all of the episodes linked together, so you can
Awesome.
watch it all at once
Oh,
as a
that's great.
package. And when people do that, I think they're going to recognize what you're talking about, which is what I was saying to Amy. I showed it to my daughter, all the episodes all at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
and she was just blown away. Um, they're funny, they're dramatic, they're truthful, and I really do feel like they represent the roller coaster ride that we've all been on with COVID, and with what's going on in our country surrounding Black Lives Matter. And because we were doing this work with artists of color,
Mm-hmm.
you were talking to them on a regular basis and hearing what they were dealing with and how it was
Mm-hmm.
affecting them. And I know that they were so grateful with how they were represented in the piece.
I'm really glad about that. And I think that the thing that was so great was that um, they, and also like everyone in the piece, challenged me to really highlight, what would it be like for two white women to have a conversation about this moment in a dramatic form, like in a piece of theater. And I think that as a white writer, I feel that like one of our responsibilities in this moment is to address whiteness. Like there's so many plays that have been done and written that are written with all white people, and not recognizing like, okay, so then that play is actually about race, or like that is play is about whiteness, and but not commenting on it, like not acknowledging that. And so I think that white writers beginning to acknowledge whiteness as a thing and as a conflict and as something that we need to examine, is both really, it's challenging, honestly,
Mhm.
in that it's uncomfortable and it also feels really good to explore. So it was
Well,
really a great challenge.
beyond that, I also want to say that I thought you did a great job of taking on these four different women who are all people of faith.
Yeah.
They all four characters consider themselves Christians,
Hmm.
and so often when we see that in film or television, there's there that tends to be mocked or not treated with respect. And I really felt like all four of these characters were smart, and kind-hearted, wanting to do the best for each other, but making human mistakes. And so I
Yeah.
just want to say, as a person of faith, I really thought I was well represented. And
Cool.
the mistakes that we're all making, inadvertently,
Hmm.
as white people, without meaning to, and with no harm intended, but there's this whole idea of intent versus impact. And
Yeah.
so it was great to be in a place of safety and comfort to watch that play out, right? To watch someone unintentionally have a huge and harmful impact on somebody
Hmm.
that they cared about very deeply.
Yeah.
um, and how you reconcile that and how you bring that back together, and how you manage to write hope into all of that message. And I just wanted to tell you how much I appreciate that.
Thank
So
you. Good. No, I'm glad. That's awesome.
well, I know you've gotten to hear the appreciation from the artists of color, but I'm not sure you heard the appreciation from the artists of faith as well.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, good.
Um,
I'm glad. It was cool. It was really cool to also like, as we got more specific with the conflict, um, because I think at first in April it was like, all right, what is this play going to be about? Like, what is any of this about? Like this
mhm,
being just this COVID crisis and isolation, and like, what is this? So like, as the conflict became clearer in the play, I think that then it was great to like make those specific choices about like, okay, it's a Bible study, they're all women of faith, they all love each
mhm,
other, they've known each other for a long time, and then to really allow like ourselves to just go there to those really uncomfortable places. I
mhm,
love awkward humor and I love things to be
mhm,
awkward. And so for the awkwardness and the awkwardness that is so painful, like to kind
mhm,
of let that drop in like let the humor happen and also like the painful awkwardness happen was
mhm.
I think it heightened the whole thing. And I think that I agree with you that I do feel like a lot of times people of faith are not well represented in TV and film and theater. And so it's always really, I feel like I know that world really well. And
Mhm.
um, it's always cool to get to like write about it because I think there's so much good and there's so much, you know, there are
And
things to play with. And
right, right.
yeah.
And there are so many of us out there who
Mhm.
are, trying to grow and evolve as
Yes.
people of faith.
Yeah.
Um, and it's great to, have a look at ourselves where we don't seem goofy. So I
Yeah.
appreciate that. I wanted to go ahead and see if we could, I know you were sent some questions
Yes. Okay,
uh,
great.
from our PR marketing team, and I'm supposed to ask you these questions. And so
Okay.
I'm going to ask them of you and see what you think. What is the performance or play that first inspired you to do theater?
Okay, well, as we know, my dad is an actor, director, writer, like Renaissance man of the arts. So like I've been in the arts, I feel like exposed to the arts since I was very little. I was like in plays when I, like was super little. But I feel that the experience that kind of led me to being in the theater um as a career was I was in a production of Our Town by Thornton Wilder at a youth theater company in Mercer Island, Washington, Youth Theater Northwest. And I
Oh,
played Mrs.
wonderful.
Gibbs, one of the moms, and met my best friend on the like doing this play. And also like that was the play that I fell in love with, like the actual script, like not just the like I get to be in the play, the lead, or like be on stage, but the actual words and what it said. And then also like the rehearsal process. I remember like sitting in the third act, you have to just sit for a very long time because you're in a graveyard. And I just loved being still and sitting and thinking about being in the play. And there was a boy who like also was in the, everyone was like kind of all over the place. And I don't know if one of us, he said something like, "Oh, this is boring." And I was like, "I love this." And he was like, "Well, I love the performance part, but I don't like this." And I was like, "I love this." So that experience was something that definitely started me on the path to like, I'm really obsessed with the theater. So
Oh, I love that story. Here's the next one. What career or job would you like to have pursued completely outside of theater? So if you weren't in theater, what career or
yes,
job would you have gone for?
I feel like if I could do my life over, I would be a linguist or someone that like speaks a bunch of languages and can work in different country. I don't speak other languages, but
Wow.
could do my life over. That would be one. But if I was like on my current path of life where I don't speak all those other languages, I would want to be a journalist, I think. That would have been a different career path that probably only now I would want to be. But I
Wow.
also am obsessed with science. So like in another life, I also would love to kind of go down that path. But I feel like a journalist could also marry that science passion with just that work as a journalist. So yeah.
Wow, that's really cool. Because the reason I love that is because the idea of linguist,
Yes,
um, and
theater.
writing, journalist writing, but also I happen to know some of your plays, and so I
Yes,
know about the science in your plays, so I
yes,
can see all of that. That's so cool.
yeah. Thanks.
So if you could have dinner with up to three other people who have worked in the theater, living or dead, who would you choose for your dinner party?
Yeah, this is such a good question, and I really didn't know at first, but I was thinking about it. I mean, I think what I came down to was Anton Chekhov, Tennessee Williams, and Uta Hagen together. I feel that it would be a really crazy party. And I mean, I love Chekhov's plays. I love Tennessee Williams' plays. I think they're both just fascinating humans. And then Uta Hagen is someone that I was totally obsessed with her writing as an actor
Oh, yeah.
growing up. And I just think that to put them in a room together and like have like vodka and whiskey and who knows what else, like it would just be the most fun. Yeah, that's what I would pick, I think.
Do you have a favorite Tennessee Williams play?
Well, I was in Orpheus Descending in college. I played Lady Torrance at like 21, and it was amazing. I love his essays. Like, I just think his work is beautiful. So, yeah.
How about Chekhov? Do you have a favorite Chekhov?
Yeah, I was just thinking about this last night actually. I love the Cherry Orchard and I also love Three Sisters.
Mm.
But I probably would say Cherry Orchard.
Wow.
I just was watching like there's this I mean everyone's doing crazy stuff with Zoom, but this amazing playwright Celine Song is doing this weird adaptation of The Seagull on Sims, the video game Sims.
Yeah, yeah.
It's crazy. I only watched some of it yesterday, but I can't remember what theater it's through, maybe MCC, and it's just like so interesting what she's doing, what she's doing, and what people are doing in general with like this. She's doing it on Twitch. Twitch is like where you watch
Sure.
video games. I don't know. It's crazy.
Oh
She's
my
doing like an
gosh.
adaptation of The Seagull on The Sims. So it's
That's
interesting.
creative and exciting and bizarre and
Yes,
crazy.
exactly.
So we have some people here with us, and I
Yes.
thought maybe if we could take a moment and maybe open up the dialogue with our guests and see if anybody has any
Great.
questions for you about the plays that you've written or about Change Your Life or about
Great.
just what it's like to be Amy Berryman, young and free, living in New York
Young
City.
and free. Yeah, that's me for sure.
So
Alone, very alone here.
I don't know whether we're going to see people or
So,
not.
hi, this is your technical director.
Hello.
Hello. Folks can either put a question in the chat or you can unmute yourself and ask the question, whichever you
Oh,
prefer.
Perfect.
So there's a little
Great.
chat function and at the bottom of your screen, or just unmute yourself and ask if anybody has a question.
Oh, that's great. And if you don't have questions, I'll just keep asking them because
Great.
I have lots and lots of questions.
Awesome.
Hey guys, this is Marin.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi. So I'm curious, Amy, you talk about just, doors not opening in the acting world and just how difficult that space is, and then you got into the playwriting. But I imagine also in the playwriting world that there is a lot of kind of doors closing or rejection, or you talk about people not liking your plays. How do you handle just, I liked to write when I was younger, but then when I got to the point where it was like, you have to decide if you're going to make a career out of this, I could not handle the idea of the rejection. So I'm curious, how do you process that, and just and how do you take on failure but not let that shut you down, and move through that failure or through that rejection, and how do you manage that so you don't get totally discouraged or crushed when someone doesn't like your work?
Oh my gosh. Yes. Amazing question. Yes. And by me saying doors are opening, it's all relative. It's relative to the doors that were closing constantly on the acting. Do you know what I mean? It definitely, I submit my plays to a lot of things. I think as an actor, I did get a bit of a thick skin for rejection in some ways, where I'm big on just submitting my plays to a lot of places and getting a lot of rejections. And I have an Excel spreadsheet where I put all my submissions, and then when I get rejections, I make them red, and it's checking off a box, but some of them really hurt, really, really bad. And I don't know. I think the thing that is helpful for me, and I think about it in terms of my experience getting rejected as an actor, is that it feels that I feel like I can always move forward, and that I can always write. And this is after crying a lot and taking a lot of time and feeding myself chocolate or whatever. But I can always write a new play, or I can always submit to another thing, or I can always hear a new draft of my play with people that I really, really respect, that are my really close friends, that aren't going to hurt me in their response to this play, even if they don't like it or if they have questions. I think that there's just, I find a lot of power, taking a lot of power back, and that I can create something new after the rejection. Or, okay, they rejected that play, but I've got this other thing that I'm working on, and I can focus on that. And all of it, as I'm saying it, that sounds really nice, but truly there are dark, dark, deep, dark days, and will be more deep, dark days ahead for sure. Because also, beyond just rejection, when you're blocked or when it's not working, or the thing it's so upsetting, and it takes me a long time to push through that sometimes. And then it's several weeks of writing really well, and then it's several weeks of uh-oh, it's not working again. So I don't know. I mean, I think that the only thing that I find comfort in is the fact that if I get a rejection as a writer, I can take more action afterwards, versus if I get a rejection as an actor, I'm sort of well, I don't know what to do next. For me, I don't know what the next step is, because I don't get to take the next action towards, I mean, I can submit myself for more auditions, but I'm not necessarily going to get those auditions. I love the fact that I can start to create something. And I think writers in particular, and other artists, we can use our grief towards our art. And there's so many people that they don't have that outlet for turning their grief into something new. Yeah, I don't know if
That's
that
great.
answered, but I totally feel your pain. And like, I don't mean to say that even though doors have opened, there haven't been 20,000 more that have shut, that I feel that pain so deeply. So thank you for the question.
Mhm.
And I know I just
Yeah,
kind of
thank
rambled,
you.
but it's very
No, that's great.
very potent thing for sure.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Maybe we could take a moment and you could tell them a little bit about some of the successes you've had, though.
Sure.
Because, like, for instance, I opened my National New Play Network email
Yeah.
and I
What did
saw
it say?
saw your name there.
Yeah, I my play Walden was I don't know what it was, a finalist for
Yeah, it was a finalist.
for
The
their
readings.
their readings. So I get to like read me, Amy, get to like read a passage from something I've written for one of their things in November. So I don't know what I'm going to read, but yeah, there's that. I've been a finalist for the O'Neill. I I've had, many readings at various theaters around the country, Kitchen Dog, Theater Caltech, the Landing Theater in Houston, People's Light, Harvard Theater Works.
And in order to get you for this project, I had to contact your agent. So you have an agent now as well.
Yes, yes, which has been really great. Yes. So, yeah,
I'm sure that's been helpful.
very helpful, very, very helpful and nice. And yeah, very lucky. And I think maybe we have another question, but I don't know.
Hi, Amy.
Hi.
So I don't know if you remember, I met you a long time ago when my son Jeremy Weisenbaum was in Les Mis at Taproot with your brother.
Of course.
And
Yes.
and
Hello. Good to see
hi.
you.
Then he was in Beauty and the Beast. He was Chip the
Yes.
Teacup.
Uh-huh. Yep. Good
So
times.
I've sort of been following your career for a long time.
Awesome.
I wanted to ask you, you obviously have sort of embraced the COVID moment with this play. Do you imagine that it will change your playwriting, that COVID will change your playwriting from here on out, or do you think of this as an aberration in time?
It is a great question. I don't know. I don't know, because I do think that already theaters were very much like, well, we need small casts if we're going to produce a play because it's cheaper to do it, right? That's kind of like a thing you hear. Oh, don't do big casts. Don't have a lot of characters, right? And now it's like, okay, people are going to want what people are saying. Theaters are going to want one person shows, two person shows, three person shows from here on till who knows how long this is going to last, right? So of course, I have a play that I've written that has like 20 characters or something, because it was for a competition that I wrote it for, and so I made it with all these characters. I'm like, well, what am I going to do with that play, So I mean, I think that thinking about it like that is sort of, it can go one of two ways. It can be totally the enemy of your creativity to say to yourself, I can only write a one person show or a two person show. And I am someone that thrives, like I was telling Karen, on having kind of an assignment, or kind of having parameters, or having, could I tell this story with just four people? Could I tell this story with just one person? I've never written a one person show, but like, what would that be like to try to give myself that assignment? So in that way, like just the logistics of like, what is the theater, or writing a play for Zoom. I've written a couple other short plays for Zoom as well. So I like having those assignments and for myself, and I wouldn't want it to be like the enemy of my imagination that wanted to create or needed to write something that was bigger than what I think is quote unquote producible. because there are plays like The Wolves by Sarah DeLapp, which has a lot of young women in it and seems like maybe it'd be unproducible in some ways because it's like a soccer game and it has so many young women in it, and it is one of the most produced plays in the country up until, COVID. So I think in that way it could change the way I just kind of am thinking about, okay, well, what kind of play do I want to write? And then it definitely will change, just like it makes it impossible at the moment, in my brain anyway, to set something like present day, now. Let's play it set in now. What is now? Like you
Right.
have to pick, even if I'm writing like a pilot or like I'm trying to write something for TV film, it's like, if I set it in now, is that a post-COVID world, or is that a during COVID? Is that a before COVID? Like you kind of have to pick when it is. Otherwise, what is it? It's definitely affected our relationship to that idea of the now or the present. So in some ways, like, of course, like it definitely will affect my playwriting from here on out, because it's this reality that we're all processing. And I feel like as artists, so many people are saying like, don't be hard on yourself if you're not being quote unquote productive. We should be just taking it all in and thinking about it. And I'm like, I'm going to go crazy if I don't write. So I have to just go do it anyway. But I do think that in a year from now, we'll be thinking and processing very different things about this time than we were /are during it. So yeah. So yes is the answer, and in various ways.
Thank you. That was so thoughtful. I'm going to take that away and chew on it.
I've had a lot of thoughts about it over the past 8 months alone in my studio apartment. So happy to talk about it.
Thanks, Jack.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Wow, that made me. Oh, is there another person? I don't want to step on anybody.
I haven't turned my video on. It's just me.
Hi.
Hi, Amy. I wanted to know. I'm a retired nurse. I always think about the emotional and psychological effects of pandemics on people, and I'm a woman who have family members, close family members, who were in all the pandemics we've experienced through history as nurses.
Wow.
So I want to know, for you personally, how do you, what have you found to cope, to help you with your writing, to center yourself and help you cope during this time so you can express yourself, you can write? What activities do you do? Screaming,
Yes.
yelling, pulling your hair, stuff like
Exactly. All those things. Oh my gosh. I
And all
don't know
all at
even
the same
what to
time.
tell you what I do. I'm a runner, sort of. I run in Central Park sometimes. And I try to meditate. I do journal. I journal often and pretty consistently. I've done the Artist's Way, the Julia Cameron book before, and done morning pages, and I kind of do subscribe to that. I'm not like, religious about it or anything, but I do find that journaling through this has helped, and it's been super interesting to kind of look back and be like, whoa, what did I think was happening at the beginning of this? And now that's not happening. I could tell you all the good things you should do, but I don't know what it is I actually have done, except, also like have people in my life that I can talk to and talk through all the anxiety, and share in the grief of like, where is our industry? Where is theater? Where to be able to just have people to express that to, I feel like is important. I guess letting myself write really badly, like allowing myself to write poorly. I hate it, but I do allow it. Like I just am like, okay, if I do, even though it hurts and is horrible, I do believe that you kind of have to get to the end of something before you can really know what it is, or know if it's bad, or know if it's good. So also probably eating too much, drinking too much wine. Like, I don't know.
Amy, Amy, I was gonna say
Yeah,
that.
what do you do, Karen?
No, about you. Pointing it back towards you, but I was going to say that I don't know whether you know, working on your project was actually life-giving to me during
Good.
this time. It made me feel, Mark and I talked about it because my husband was the technical editor.
Mhm.
And we just felt like artists again, right? And I'm wondering how that was working on this project, talking with those actors and being in the thick of it. Did that help you get through the first couple of months at all, or?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely like also scary. Like it was like both scary and invigorating to have something that I knew was like someone was expecting and that I was going to turn in during this time, versus like, okay, I'm using this time to, it was like, okay, this I have to actually turn in. It's going to be a thing that is made. So there was some anxiety around that, but it was like very helpful to process the time. And at that time, I was also like away from New York and with my family in Indiana. So that also was helpful to kind of like have a change of scenery while I wrote it. And yeah, it definitely felt like an actual process. And anything that feels like it resembles some kind of theatrical process is definitely like a shot in the arm of, oh, that thing I'm
Yeah.
missing, or that thing I thought I was going to have this year and then I didn't have. So yeah,
Yeah,
it was very
for
good.
sure.
It was cool.
Cool.
Yeah, I hope that kind of answers it. I don't have a lot of answers about how to get through, but those were some things I've been doing. So
Any other questions? Yay. I don't want to, I have a tendency to, like, if it's silent, to keep talking. So I don't want to step on anybody's questions at all.
What is it like in a family of actors?
good
That are
question.
in theater.
Um, it was interesting. It was, I mean, overall really wonderful that, so many people I think are in families that don't necessarily encourage or nourish their children that are artists or encourage them. And both my brother and I were very encouraged. It was definitely, it's a lot of feelings in one house and growing up and, you know, hormones and things changing and jealousy and rivalry and all of that. But feel so grateful that I do have artists in my family. Like, I think that that's so, so lucky. And it is certainly a well of things to draw on when writing. So, yeah, it was overall, great and challenging, but good.
That's great. I don't know whether you wanted to, let's see. I can't tell if anybody else has a question, so I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to step over anybody at all. Anybody else? Well, Amy, do you have anything that you're working on now that you want to tell us about, or anything that you're excited about coming up that you can't talk about?
Yeah, I'm mostly writing. I'm trying to focus on moving into like practicing writing like a pilot or a film, like trying to write for
Oh, yeah.
pivot a little bit and take this time where not a lot's happening in the theater, and I have plays that I've already written to kind of be like, okay, how do I do this? What's different about this? And it's so hard. It's so hard. It is so different. There's so much more structure involved than I'm used to, like structuring before you just kind of like explore it. So that's been really challenging, but a really good challenge. I don't know that there's anything coming up that I'm like promoting. I mean, there's like the National New Play Network thing. I'm going to read something from something I've written at the end of next month. I think it's the
Yeah.
21st of November.
Yeah, you should let me know about that.
I
and
will, I will.
We'll attend.
Yay, I'll let you know. Yeah. I am trying to write a play about restaurant workers. I just recently stopped working at the restaurant I worked at for a long time, and I've been in the industry for like 10 years. And so that's something that I've slowly kind of like letting come out of myself, and I think it'll be cool. That would be a play, like, but I don't know exactly what it is yet, and it has a lot of characters. So
Hey, well, listen, don't forget universities
good
need
point.
those large
Point.
those plays that have lots of characters. So don't give
Good
up.
thought. Good
And
thought.
we know lots of people who run those programs.
Okay,
So
great.
we can help you out.
Awesome.
Amy, I just wanted to say thank you so much for spending time with us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you for the pleasure it's been to work with you on this. And thank
It's
you
so
for
great.
answering questions from the folks here tonight. And
Thank you all for
I'm
being
just-
here and asking them. It
I'm
was
just
so
so
awesome.
excited about where you're heading and what you're doing and the
Thank
work that you
you.
have ahead of you.
Thank you, Karen. This both working on Change Your Life and tonight, and just, you know, always working with you is so great.
Yeah.
So thank you.
And I want to say a special thanks to all the Playmakers. And I want to remind everybody that the 5th episode of Change Your Life drops Friday.
And it's
And
a good
then,
one. It's very
yeah,
different.
it's a really good one. And then you'll be able to look forward into the future. And you're the only people who know this. Nobody else knows this, but you guys will be able to eventually then see the whole thing put together, the whole 5-part series done as one program. That'll be coming out soon. And I think you'd be really surprised by that and happy, delighted.
Yeah, I think it's cool as just a straight through kind of thing. I think it's really cool. Like that.
Well, thank you. And
Thank you.
that's it. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.